The Shire. Hello, and welcome to another video from Secrets of the Rings, where we celebrate and delve deep into all things Tolkien. Join us today as we take a look into the beloved land of the Shire. If you enjoy our videos, please like and subscribe for more content, and let us know what you would like to see more of. The Shire refers to a hilly region located in the northwest of Middle-earth, long after the destruction of Beleriand, and is considered to be the homeland of the Hobbits by the Third Age. Hobbits are believed to have originated in the east, much like the other races of Men and Elves, eventually migrating west over the Misty Mountains in fear of evil forces and the need for fertile land. Much of history excludes mention of the Hobbits, save the events surrounding the War of the Ring. They are a simple and a secretive bunch, largely preferring the simple joys of home to the adventures of elves and men. Hobbits are very nimble, adept at hiding and remaining unnoticed. They are keen in their sense of sight and hearing as well as their speed. They generally stand between 2 and 4 feet tall, are clad in bright greens, browns and yellows, and wear no shoes over their large hairy feet. Despite their size and the fact that they are mortal, they are capable of great strength and courage in their less than occasional battles. They are orderly and are skillful craftsmen, often producing more items than necessary for their use. In addition to crafting, hobbits love eating and drinking, laughing and partying, and smoking pipeweed especially. Pipeweed, or nicotiana, is a staple of theirs considered to be an art. It was first grown by one Tobold Hornblower of Longbottom in the South Farthing, approximately SR 1070 or TA 1770. Merry Brandybuck, master of Buckland, would eventually author Herblore of the Shire, perfectly demonstrating his love for the herb that frequented his and many others' pipes. Families of the region would settle in long houses or holes in the ground. Many members of a family live in a single hobbit household. They typically grow their own food, and citizens of the Shire were generous with their belongings, allowing for harmonious life to persist for so long. Many held shops, farms or the like that lasted unchanged for many years. Some families of the rich and the poor built elaborate holes in the ground to dwell in, known as smiles, but others built long houses above that stayed low to the ground. The different styles represented different regions and families. Family lineage is very significant to the Hobbits. Round doors and windows were a common architectural style. Although Hobbits are generally similar, they are divided into 3 main subspecies or lineages: Harfoots, Stoors, and Fallowhides. Harfoots have browner skin, are smaller and shorter in build, lacking beards, and populate the highlands and hillsides. Stoors are stockier in build, with large hands and feet, and populate the flatlands and riversides. Lastly, the Fallowhides are fairer in skin and hair, taller and slimmer, and live amongst trees and woodlands. As a whole, hobbits dwindled in numbers and grew smaller in stature over time. The Shire was once a land belonging to the men of Arnor, under the lordship of the King of Fornost, who battled the kingdom of Angmar to the north. As their numbers dwindled in that region, the hobbits began to move in. It is also believed some hobbits may have fought for the kingdom of Arnor. In Third Age 1601, Marcho and Blanco Fallowhide crossed the Brown River, Baranduin, with a company of hobbits over the Bridge of Stonebows. They settled the land between the river and the far downs to the west, under the lordship of King Agreleb II. They were granted those lands in return for the maintenance of the Great Bridge, which later came to be known as the Brandywine Bridge, as well as other ways of travel through the region. The first year of the Shire, TA 1601, would become Year 1 of the Shire Reckoning, noted as SR. The domain stretched about 40 leagues from the far downs to the Brandywine Bridge, and 50 leagues from the northern moors to the southern marshes. The East Road is a main artery passing through the region, used by elves, men and dwarves alike. It also helps to delineate the Shire into 4 quarters: the north, south, east and west farthings. Each of these is also divided amongst different family lands, such as Tookland, for example. Beyond the west farthing is the West March, annexed by King Elessar in SR 1462. The hobbits operated largely on their own, but enjoyed the benefit of having the rangers of the north to patrol the borders. It is believed that they learned writing and letters from men at some point, who had learned from the elves. They took up the common speech, or Westron, save certain words of their own. In SR 37, the Shire suffered the Dark Plague, but after surviving that, they began a period of prosperity and multiplied greatly. Hundreds of years later, the Shire folk suffered the Long Winter, directly followed by the Days of Dearth, from 1158 to 1160, when many suffered through famine and frigid temperatures. This recovery was one of the many examples of the strength of hobbits. Records of the hobbits began only after the Shire was settled. The stories of Bilbo, Frodo, Samwise, Merry, and Pippin are detailed in the Red Book of Westmarch, with all of them contributing to its writing. The Shire kept the rules of the old king of Fornost, as they are ancient and just, mainly protecting free will. There was a chieftain of the Shire, referred to as the Thrain. Their power was largely administrative, as the hobbits were not involved in many battles, although they were responsible for those rare events. The thrainship was held often by members of the Took family, as they were wealthy, unusual, and daring compared to most hobbits. There was a mayor as well, elected every 7 years at midsummer at the Free Fair in Mickledelving, the capital of the Shire. The mayor was responsible for the messenger service and the watch, the former being the busier. It is not unusual for hobbits to send letters to those who reside only an afternoon walk's length away. Sheriffs acted as a police force for the Shire. They wore no uniforms but a feather in the cap. Their concerns lied more in beasts than other people. 3 sheriffs resided in each quarter, amounting to 12 total, and patrolled the lands, including the outside perimeter, where reports of threats grew over time toward the War of the Ring, TA 3018 to 3019. In TA 2747, orcs that terrorized Eriador made their way to the Shire, but an uncommonly tall hobbit by the name of Bandobras Took mounted a horse and led a force across the Norborn River to combat them, which they did successfully. The Nazgul were among the major threats to visit the hobbits in later years as well. The largest threat to the Shire came at the end of the events that detailed the War of the Ring. The last military conflict of the war took place in the Shire after the 4 hobbits returned home. Upon their return, they discovered their home to be occupied by ruffian men who had invaded when the chance arose, led by a commander named Sharky. They instilled harsh rules upon the citizens, which were easily broken, such as bribing guards with food. Help was requested from the men of Waymeet in the West Farthing. Warriors from Hobbiton, Buckland, led by Merry, and House Cotton joined forces against the tyrants at Bywater. A barricade was set up to trap the ruffian men, allowing them to kill the leader and force surrender. Later on, Pippin gathered a force of Tookland fighters that ambushed another force of the evil men, ending in victory for the hobbits, but not without several of their deaths. The men that died were buried in a sandpit that would come to be known as the Battle Pit, while the hobbits that suffered the same fate had their own graves decorated by a large stone and a garden. Later at Bag End, the hobbits discovered Sharky, who turned out to be Saruman in disguise. Sharky was also rumored to be Lotho Sackville Baggins, a relative of Frodo's that aided the ruffian men, but it was revealed that Grima Wormtongue had murdered him. Grima was the slave of Saruman, assisting him in his evil doings throughout the War of the Ring. Saruman was forced to surrender, but Grima slashed his throat in revenge for the years of subjugation that had created a fury within him. Grima was then shot down by hobbit archers. Saruman's spirit was blown away by winds from the west, from which Manwë rejected his return. After these chaotic events, the hobbits sought to return the peace their Shire had long experienced. Samwise Gamgee spread the soil he had received from Galadriel in Lothlorien. Where the party tree once stood was planted a Malorn seed. SR 1420 would then become one of the greatest years for harvest the region had ever seen. Peace was restored in the Shire. The many details of the Shire and the race of the hobbits are greatly detailed throughout Tolkien's works, and we always encourage our viewers to visit the source material as well. The Shire is a place we all feel we belong, where the food is plentiful and the drinks are always flowing, where music and poetry decorate the night and laughs are never far away. The love and inspiration we feel when reading The Hobbit or watching The Fellowship of the Ring is undeniable, especially when matched by Howard Shore's brilliant musical themes for the region. This is where we celebrate friendships and all things jovial. Thank you for watching, and with the Shire in mind, we encourage all to go about their lives with the merry hearts of hobbits. Until next time, Namarie.